item number 3, reading of open session. Right, we did some allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At least here. Continuing on with the agenda, item 4, consent agenda. Can I get a motion for consent agenda? So moved. Can I get a second? Anything in consent agenda that needs further consideration?
Item D.
Yes. Just ask your question.
There's no data in that to support those numbers. What are those? They're just purely random
Yeah, there's
numbers.
nothing attached.
They were sent out previously last week.
Are these?
Yeah, via email, I can post them for you really quick. The check registers, is that what you're looking for?
Oh, those are set out separately. Is that what that is?
Is that what that is?
Item D are the check registers.
Oh, that's a check register. Okay.
And payroll, which doesn't have any.
Right, that we did have.
Okay. All right.
Any other items that need separate consideration? Hearing none. All those in favor of consent agenda as proposed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on, item 5, we have no student representation. Moving on to item 6, public forum. It's your opportunity to present any comments or concerns to the school board regarding operations. Going once, twice. All right, moving on to item 7, project updates. Anyone have any questions for Dan, or do you want to present to us?
Can you give me a quick update?
Okay.
As far as Lakeview goes, we did pour all the curbs and sidewalks last week. So this week we are spreading topsoil and landscaping with mulch with plans to fine grade and pave next week, weather permitting. The rest of this week looks a little rough, but we're tracking well there. At Mill Valley, on the inside, we finished up install the new ceiling grid in the classrooms and the corridors over the weekend. So MEP finishes are underway with setting sprinkler heads and getting our inspection above ceiling. And the drop tile later this month. At the addition, the roof is going on at the gym right now, and then they'll be moving to the northwest corner. After that, we're looking to pour our gym slab on grade later this week, weather permitting. And Wednesday, joist and deck for the offices and the classrooms are going to start to show up on the south end of the addition. And brick install is underway on the north side of the building. As far as the site goes, we had a proof roll today, and we're hoping to stone all the parking lots into this week as the rain holds off.
Has that made the latest at all?
We are only 2 days behind schedule right now, so if we can get the stone in that parking lot this week, we're going to be in good shape.
Overall, the whole project's good?
We're doing good. At the middle school, we just finished setting the last precast wall panels for the gym today, and we have about a dozen columns set for the lower level. Steel structure is started today, so that is underway. About 95% of all the roads and parking lots at the middle school site have been placed, and we're continuing with footings and foundations down in the lower level. By the end of this week, we should have about 95% of those footings down as well. Masonry bearing walls in the locker room area will start going up next week. I think that's really some of the highlights. The weather has hurt. It's not impacting our schedule, it's just hurting our ability to get ahead.
How much do we have left in Lakeview? How much time?
I think we're second week of August to wrap that up, so we're in good shape.
And then we're done in Lakeview, right? Completely.
Correct. It's just this summer project.
Any other questions? Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you want as well. resolution action items, gifts, grants, and bequests.
Motion to accept with thanks gifts as noted below. Muskego High School Friends of MHS Music Makers, $2,083 for Muskego High School bands. And Muskego Youth Football, $36,500 for the design of a turf field. The donation is contingent upon a facility use agreement that will need Muskego Board and Muskego Youth Football approval. We will plan to bring the agreement back to the school board on 8/14 of 17.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Thank you.
And we actually have some representatives. I don't know if you want to say anything, or are you just here to...
Support.
Okay.
If I may. Sure.
Sure.
Paul Bearden with the Muskego Agrarian Club, Brian Roper with Muskego Youth Football. One request I would ask is the money and the contingency agreement. It's kind of a little bit of a convoluted thing in that the money is there to pay for the design and engineering of the turf field. So once we have that mechanism in place, they can actually start doing the renderings. The renderings is something that our group is very dependent upon to be able to further raise additional funds for it. Youth Night is August 18th. It's the first home game of the year, probably the biggest crowd that we're going to expect at the stadium this year. And I would love to be able to kind of kick off the season with some major signage and things of that nature. The difficult part is I know you don't meet again until, middle of August, and therefore I don't know if they're going to give us enough time to turn around those renderings and things of that nature. So I was just asking if there's any way we could possibly take up that agreement or resolve the agreement with the youth group for the facility use prior to that. I don't know what the possibilities are, but I respectfully ask that you consider that.
Where are we with that, or?
Our next meeting is towards our meeting.
Yeah. Is that final answer?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So what are you concerned about, getting the actual renderings done or actually having your signage made?
Well, the whole project is really contingent upon the agreement with the youth group and the facility use agreement, because we 100% back that as the Gridiron Group. So on behalf of the 450 kids in youth, 150 in the Gridiron, 300 in the bands, one of the biggest goals behind this project is to get the youth kids the ability to play at the stadium. And without that, there's really no other motivation behind it other than the high school program doesn't need turf, but the band certainly can benefit from it, the youth groups can benefit, but in fact, the high school program probably benefits the least. So they're kind of funding the mechanism to get the renderings done, and so outside of that, with some of the agreements we have with other groups,
So I'll go back to my question.
yes. I'm giving you everybody context.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So if we pass this agreement on the 14th, and when is the youth game?
The 18th.
18th, so
It's the varsity game, but it's youth night, so every youth family's there. You're probably double your general attendance for an average football game, almost.
Do we have any conceptual drawings for it that you can show?
Just what's been provided thus far, the conceptual stuff that was actually worked on by the facilities team, Jeremiah and
Donate your signs if you need them that quickly, that's not an issue. It's, getting actual true engineered renderings, that probably wouldn't happen even if we did it August 1st.
In talking with the to-be recommended contractor, H&H, he assured me they could do it within 2 weeks, so.
See if we can do it 4 days.
Pardon me? Everybody understands the concern, it's just, it's kind of a sticking point for the youth group and the Gridiron. Without the agreement, we won't truly feel comfortable moving forward. And so,
I understand where you're at, but this is probably something we should take and move diligently and purposefully on and not rush it, so.
respectfully, I do agree with that, but truthfully, what we're asking for is the kids to use the turf.
But the,
It's as simple as that, really.
that's all, I mean, that's all, I mean.
What can we do outside of the due diligence and agreement, what can we do to satisfy your clubs that there's a commitment here to make that happen?
Well, Bill's always in the details, so I don't like speaking for this. If we come to an agreement, it's not gonna be an issue with you using it, it's probably the nuts and bolts of all that minutia between who's responsible for what and all that stuff where the sticking points are. You know, we're not gonna take the money and say, no, you can't use it.
Yeah, I understand.
We're on the same page as you as far as our philosophy on this.
Right.
Like, we're all students, I mean, the idea is to go away, the reason is for theater programs to be able to, you know, have access to it, because I agree, our varsity gets very little use out of it because of, our high school gets very little use out of it because of, you know, the exception later in the year as it gets colder and rain, we all understand that, but, it's not as simple as you're trying to make it sound, you know, and we're gonna get there. I have no qualms whatsoever, I don't think there's gonna be any fear of us not getting there, but I don't wanna rush it.
When are you gonna get,
When are we gonna get where?
you just said we're gonna get there.
I think eventually, as we talk, we'll get to that. I hope by the 14th, but, you know, you want to rush an agreement, have a special meeting before then?
Well, no, so what needs to be done to be prepared for the 14th?
The agreement has to be written, I'm guessing.
So that's gonna happen not with us all sitting at the table.
Correct.
That's gonna be happening with the administration.
Correct.
So can the administration and this group, both groups, work together between now and, let's say, August 1st and have that possibly hashed out so that he's got 2 weeks to have H&H do what they need?
So you're saying that you're asking for the board to give approval?
No, what I'm saying is they would most likely be satisfied at that point with administration and them agreeing that this is what's going to the school board. I think it's 99.9% sure that we're gonna approve what you guys bring to us.
Yeah, but it's all contingent that we approve it. I don't think they'd want to handle the money without the facilities.
Well, before we progress it.
Yeah, I have to look. But we can get back to you on a timeline that, you know, as far as drawing up that agreement.
And I'm here tonight because I don't know who has to sign that agreement, so the process is kind of new to me. I'm kind of a doer, I'm a concept guy, not the details. I need smart people, so, and all of you.
It's government, unfortunately, it just doesn't.
I know, I don't like this. I'm telling myself that. But I do appreciate the consideration, and that's truthfully, so it's kind of like,
I really do it quicker, but you know, if it's gonna be contingent on this board convening to approve something, that's gonna be difficult, so.
But you have an offer of a printer that said he'll take what this, like Jeremiah already has and make you signs.
I do appreciate that, and respectfully, that's terrific. I guess how I look at it is I'm going to do it right once instead of doing it a couple times. And so, we have, you know, some of the things we know to kind of get the concept through. It's not we have, sincerely, 5 home days this year. And so missing out on one of those would be, 20% of the audience, and even larger than that, if you put it in perspective, that Youth Night brings out those 450 families. So it's an opportunity for us to really make some hay, spread the message, garner some excitement, and truthfully, that was the intention. So I understand your position. I'm not asking for any special dispensation, but I would ask you to, if there's any mechanism at all that you can think of to put in something to comfort the youth group so that we can maybe agree to pay H&H Civil sooner, and then I can get access to those renderings, that would be terrific. So I'm open to ideas, thoughts, and comments.
Thinking by and large, the board's not saying for sure, but I think we'll be comfortable and the administration's comfortable on that agreement. And, you know, if they can get that worked out with you sooner, you might have a comfort level before them.
Yeah.
I can't decide. I don't know, the Ts won't be crossed yet, but there may be a higher comfort level, like, reaching that agreement.
Let me preface all of this, because the youth group has diligently tried over the years to kind of get to this point. So they've been to the altar many times, and we're standing here with the rings in our hands saying, I do, and we just want someone else to say, I do. We love you. Say it back. We love you. Say that.
Thank you very much, too, by the way, it's very generous gift to the district. All right. No, we did not. All those in favor of accepting these gifts, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Moving on to item 9, superintendent's report. Dr.
Okay, the number of items is to publicly recognize Muskego High School as identified as one of the schools of the year in the Journal-Sentinel's standings this year. So we were, Muskego High School was ranked in the top 10 for overall, and then in the top 5 for girls' sports, and this all has to do with athletics and rankings. So congratulations to all of the coaches and the athletes for their outstanding work this year. The second item is education for employment and academic career planning and update. Christy's here to provide that.
All right.
As well as the school.
Dr. Thompson, would you mind just shutting off one of the lights for us, please? Thank you. I'm sorry, honey.
Are you going to use that? Okay.
Annually, we'll be bringing forward the Education for Employment Plan for the year. So internally, we call this E for E, Education for Employment. And we're going to be talking with you about what the 2017 and 18 plan looks like. One of the requirements for Education for Employment is to engage businesses post-secondary in the workforce in developing our overall planning in alignment with projected workforce needs. And so I want to just briefly talk about the different partners that we engage with for this work. Our business partners include organizations such as the Waukesha County Business Alliance and DWD. They really provide us great insight regarding local and state trends in employment, as well as planning ways for all public schools to engage with workforce. In addition to that, there's a relatively new company called M7 Inspire. It's the Milwaukee 7, and it's 7 counties around the area of Milwaukee that have come together to really help engage schools and businesses together. They have a product called Inspire Southeastern Wisconsin. We're going to be looking at it this year to see if it's a program that we're interested in, but the long and short of it is they engage workforce by putting information about certain companies and positions within a company online, and then students can search for careers of interest based on education level, interests, hobbies, etc. They can reach out to the business to ask questions about certain careers. They can schedule a visit if they're interested in learning more about a certain career. These companies have already agreed to come on site and speak to classrooms, engage in other career development opportunities, etc. So it's really it's a way for schools and businesses to bridge, and it's a software tool that helps us do that. So we're going to be looking at that this year. And then lastly, the Muskego Area Chamber, and our high school PE teachers meet with the chamber monthly and do a lot of planning for the high school. In terms of our education partners, we really work with Oshkosh and WCTC primarily, but we do some work with MATC as well, and CISA 1 area network that we're part of that kind of bridges all of our work together with other districts, including higher ed. And so together, our business partners and our education partners help inform what are some next steps in terms of preparing students for not just college, but career readiness as well. So Education for Employment comes out of PI 26. It was actually established in 1985, so this is nothing new at all, and for the last 3 decades, schools have been required to prepare students for career readiness. This particular law has been revised many times, including in 2004 and again in 2013. And academic and career planning, which you've heard some of, that is part of Education for Employment. It's a branch of it. And so it's one of the revisions that was made most recently to Education for Employment. So what does this really mean for our school district? First and foremost, it's forcing us to take a look at not just the content that our students have access to, but what skills are we developing in them? And are the skills not just college readiness, but career readiness focus as well? Next, we're really looking at how do we get those career-ready skills into our curriculum, and we have 2 internal continuous improvement processes that we're looking at in infiltrating that, and the first is the curriculum review cycle. The CPC committee looks at all new and revised coursework, and a new addition to that process this year is how the pieces coming forward are aligned to college readiness skills, and that's through the new course proposals. And then lastly, we're looking for ways to authentically bring in career-based learning opportunities for students and give students really an opportunity to learn about a career in high school so that they can make better post-secondary decisions. And lastly, for my part here, one of the requirements is to analyze local, regional, and state labor market needs. And what we've done with our partners, both the business partners and the educational partners, is we've looked at hot jobs in the state of Wisconsin and the trends going through 2024. And based on the data, the 4 areas that you see up on the screen here are common needs in the state of Wisconsin and in Waukesha County. And so they attribute this to the baby boomers who will be retiring soon and requiring more services in these areas, as well as less people attending college and or going into trades. And so you can see the areas up here. So when we look at how we're going to better meet the needs of students and prepare them for career readiness, we certainly want to make sure that we are targeting the areas that our community needs from now until 2020.
So as you are well aware, we offer a host of opportunities for our students, especially grades 5 through 12, to at least get a sense of, get their feet wet in several different career and tech areas. We've done it, we don't need to read those off for you, but those are some very exciting ways for students to either experience a career-related field or, in some cases, work concurrently with attending school. The co-op program, youth apprenticeship, and GPS are 3 programs specifically that allow our students, if they so desire, to concurrently be working in the workforce, get paid in most cases, and continue their education. Some of the opportunities that we are continuing to explore some of these are in the works as we speak. You're familiar with our partnership with UW-Oshkosh and the CAP program is an opportunity for high school students to earn college credit, take college level courses while they're in high school. So we're looking at expanding those offerings into the business realm and the education realm, which would actually capitalize on students that are interested in becoming educators. University of Oshkosh offers a CAP program in that area. Looking at expanding, developing some health and or medical fields, we would perhaps likely use Project Lead the Way, which we have several Project Lead the Way courses already. They offer a biomedical sciences suite, and looking at some options in those classes. So that might be something that you will see come through CPC in the near future. Computer science also offered by Project Lead the Way. Another example, a creative example, is something called the TEALS program, which capitalizes on private sector volunteers that work in the computer science industry, and getting those individuals to volunteer within the high school setting to get students interested in computer science and hopefully expand that area at the high school as well. And then again, to continue to look at and increase our numbers in participation in co-op and youth apprenticeship.
Kind of what was referenced throughout this presentation is the fact that this is part of some work that's been happening for the past 30 years. But to be honest with you, we're really excited about it because we believe it's helping us kind of identify one of the missing components to this, and it's the why. Oftentimes in school systems, we're really good at talking about how students are going to do things or what they're specifically going to do, and this has really helped us to shine a flashlight on why we need students to engage in these things. Specifically, when you talk about getting to know, it's not just about knowing what your career options are, it's about knowing why that would be a great fit for our students. When we develop these skills and we challenge students with taking various rigorous coursework or engaging in community partnerships and getting real work experience, having them reflect on, what did I like about this? Did it match up with my strengths and my weaknesses? Did I feel fulfilled? And helping students truly find something that will lead to a fulfilling career for the rest of their life. And again, specifically designing programs that aren't designed around a product, around a process. That again, if I change my mind after my first year of college, or I choose to take a year off and engage in the workforce, have I acquired the skills? Have I learned how to continue to get to know myself better and get to learn about what my options are? And then further, as I continue to explore those options, am I able to develop the plans necessary to find out how can I financially make it happen? How can I support my family with these career aspirations and goals? And then finally, that ability to kind of reassess, where the goal phase is once I've gotten into a path, do I have the flexibility to adjust it if life circumstances change? Have I acquired the skills and knowledge to make a change in my path, whether it's my sophomore year of high school, my senior year of high school, or 5 years down the road as a community member? Another component of this that's really exciting to us is it's about continuing to build on those partnerships and really functioning as a strong, functioning community, expanding upon those community partnerships with our businesses and those local folks who want to come in and partner with us and help our students really see firsthand what is it like to be a part of some of these careers. So there'll be some exciting times coming ahead. We continue to reassess where are our strengths, where are our gaps, and we'll certainly be bringing forward things as we come to identify how we can put the best plans in place so we can effectively live our mission of ensuring that every single student who comes through our system has a plan, they know why they're doing it, and we've helped them develop the skills they need to truly be successful in life as they move forward.
Attached to the public content are several documents. One is this presentation, also a detailed plan with action steps and objectives. WD's Hottest Jobs of 2024. Information about the M7 Inspire program if you would like more information. A flyer on the TEALS program, that's the computer science program, where volunteers come in and work. We actually have a community member who has started conversations with us about wanting to be that volunteer for our system. And then an article that recently came out last week from Governor Scott Walker regarding the CAP program, specifically in the area of computer science. UW-Oshkosh just received about a $9 million grant in order to educate high school teachers in order to be college-level computer science teachers. In short, they have money to pay people to go to school and get certified, with the intent of bringing computer science into the high schools. They've asked us if we're interested in partnering. We're having conversations on that now. So those are just some documents for you guys to take a look at. Does anyone have any questions?
I just have one more minute with the SCAP program. Governor Walker's letter saying that, we need enough society. Do we currently have any CAP programs that are computer science oriented? Do they offer any?
We currently do not offer any in our high school, but the CAP program does offer classes. But the IHE, the Institute of Higher Ed, the organization that oversees all of the colleges, they have requirements for professors to have a master's degree in the content area. And so our real challenge is we have nobody with a master's degree in the content area, therefore we cannot offer that college level course on campus. Oshkosh will for our teachers to get certified and get that degree through this grant in their program. So it's just a matter of us having the right people who are interested in engaging in that material, and then working with Oshkosh to make that happen. So we're a couple years out, but it's a great opportunity for us.
Is that something that we're looking for as we're recruiting new staff then? To try to target those areas? Looking for someone that's got some of these credentials already?
Yeah, and I think I could probably speak better to that, but I think it's a very hard degree to find.
It is, we're also looking very closely at folks internally that we can develop and grow, that have a passion in that area, that we believe already have the characteristics of what we would describe a kid magnet, that can hopefully get the training necessary and pull some students into a very booming occupational area.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And more Muskego High School administration here to provide an end of the year random drug testing and report.
Do you have a report on the MacBook somewhere that you want to project, or are we having to bring it up?
You should bring it up.
Just give me a minute, I'll do that.
Do you want to do it from here?
Sure. Okay. Just give Christine, and then she'll do that. So, still some time.
So Mr. Babalinka is an avid dancer. You'd like to see certain programs in that. No pass into the avid program.
I was going to say we teach dancing in that.
Certification that helps advertise. It's a running joke because of the first leadership team, even they told me all new administrators dance. I didn't know. And Rachel Dunn. She's only his dance. No, seriously, we're kind of working through parts of Canine Searches, RDT, our partnership with Rosecrans, and I think some follow-up as well. So as we go to the next slide, this is the results of our canine searches for the year. We conducted a total of 5 searches with various law enforcement agencies. Waukesha County was here, Berlin was here. I think Waukesha might have been here for one of them too. We conducted 3 indoor classroom searches, typically 7 to 8 classrooms per 50-minute period. We usually wait till about 2 minutes into the class period, and then we hit as many classrooms as we can. Usually about 6-7 minutes per classroom. Pretty efficient process.
Are we talking about just the high school?
It's a high school area, yeah. And then we conducted 2 outdoor parking lot searches this year. We did plan a third one, and it ended up actually coinciding the exact same day that we had the fallen shooting in front of the building. So we kind of scrambled and canceled that. We were not able to schedule it because it was late here. Through the course of the 5 searches, we ended up with 12 positive indications, which means the dog hit either on a car or backpack item that was in possession left in the classroom. Through those 12 indications and the resulting search and questioning process, we ended up with 3 positive indications, 3 different individuals, where one was found in possession of marijuana, another one had paraphernalia, and another one had a vaping device on their person. Any questions on that slide?
Do you know by chance that those were from the parking lot or from the inside of school?
I would have to look on that, but I think it was 2 of them were outside, I think one was inside.
Okay, thank you.
How does the number of searches, the 5 searches, how does that compare to some of that area?
I just can't speak to the area, I can get that information for it. We track it back to 2010, but I can definitely ask other schools. We were shooting for about 1 a month. It gets a little tough to do that over Thanksgiving. It gets tough to do that over the start of the year with the holidays and vacations. And that really became the issue, is that we wanted to really do 6 or 7, but to get everybody to come together becomes a bit of a challenge. So I'll pass around there a little bit too. This is the chart that I kind of have been continued that was started through 2011. You can see since 2010-2011 school year, we started doing 1 search that year, and we were up to 7 last year, and this year we did 5. And you can see that that's kind of been a consistent trend the last couple of years, sitting in that like 7, 7, and 5 range. And you can see the indications have, some years are a little higher, but a little bit lower the last couple of years.
we can see the positive indication as well, kind of in that low single digit range. Any questions on that?
So are these is this the Muskego Police Department?
This is the
Or
information,
is that the county sheriff?
this is the information that we collect internally from the building side, based on the searches that we either conduct with just Muskego PD when we do classroom searches, or if we do a parking lot search with multiple jurisdictions. So we've had as many, I think it's 4 or 5 canine units here.
That's good. Thank you.
Andy, just remind me, when we do have an indication, whether or not it's a positive result, do we notify the parents?
Yes, definitely. And we could have a situation where we have a passenger in the car. And the passenger had nothing to do with the result of it. We question the passenger as well. We would contact that family as well.
Okay. So you would contact everyone that's, for the family that, any student's family that's in that car, or in it?
Yes.
Good. Very good.
Did you say you had different units in to do the searches, or the same unit?
When it's an internal search, it's always been with the Muskego Police Department, and Officer Sean comes in with Sirius, and we do the classroom searches. When it's an outdoor search, because Sirius could not do the entire parking lot, we work in conjunction with as many local municipalities, teams that we get together. So it could be the New Berlin Police Department brings a dog, the Waukesha County Sheriff Department brings a dog, and we go that with them. Those teams kind of all work together to help each other out. That's good.
Good evening. How's everybody?
You.
All right, so we have the 16-17 update for the random drug testing results. Number of students tested has remained the same. We test 150 students over the course of the school year. 15 students per month, 150 students. Of those 150 students, 20 are then given the PD panel. So our results for this year, we had 8 violations, or positive results. So 8 violations, but 7 students. So 1 student tested positive for both marijuana and for nicotine. So that's how you get the difference in number. Total, we had 3 positive test results for marijuana and 5 positive test results for nicotine. When we look at the activities versus the parking component of the results, 5 students were involved in co-curriculars, and the other 2 of those students were parking only for violations. In comparison, sitting pretty close to what we had last year, 15-16 school year. We had 9 violations, 8 students last year total. This year, 8 violations, 7 students. You guys have any questions for me?
And in response to some of the things we identified in our first year working together was the next step for this current school year, where we were able to, with great cooperation from our district, hire the resource of Rosecrans for 1 day a week. We were very excited to have something because we realized we were getting very good at trying to put systems in place to help us identify who is utilizing or who's struggling with the decision-making process, but we didn't have a lot in place to help the students who we did find out were actually using. So this partnership kind of gave us a restorative approach and response. So when we had to make those very difficult contacts to families that shared information that your son or your daughter might be engaging in some behavior that's questionable, or might be in a social circle where some things are happening, we wanted a resource to be able to provide to those families and to those students. To be honest, the beginning partnership started out a little bit rough. We all know that our programs are only as good as the people you can get, and the first round with the counselor we got just wasn't quite connecting very well with our students. But I am very grateful for how Rosecrans as a system responded to that. We were able to take steps, and they responded very positively. The actual director of Rosecrans decided, after we weren't satisfied with our first counselor, he came and worked with our school system for the final 3 quarters of the school year. And we had much different feedback from our students and our families after he started to work with us. So as you look at the next slide, we had a total of 31 students referred to our Rosecrans support system. That came from a number of different sources. It could have been through the various educations, whether it was through our own internal drug screening, whether it was through working with our school social worker, one of our school counselors, in contact with a family who was reaching out to us and saying, how can you help me as a family? I don't know what to do with my son or my daughter as they're struggling with these things. So it clearly was a very positive step moving forward as far as what can we offer. An additional benefit to this system, historically our response was when a student made a bad decision, they were out of school for an extended period of time due to suspension. This gave us a restorative option to work with the family and hopefully partner with the family that was structured in a way that if we could engage in a partnership, that they were willing to engage in some restorative counseling and some lifestyle kind of assessments. It gave them an opportunity to get back into school quicker, to the tune of 51 days of instruction that we got back for our students who are already struggling with some decisions. So again, from our lens of working with at-risk students who are already oftentimes struggling in multiple ways, the last thing we want to do is keep them out of our system longer. We want to get them the skills they need and the tools they need to hopefully make different decisions and connect them with those kind of resources. And again, as we look forward kind of down the road, our next step is hopefully to continue to expand on that. We're continuing to explore different grants. Our new activities director has a great passion for drug and alcohol awareness and helping students develop the courage and the confidence to say no. We're hoping to perhaps expand our partnership with Rosecrans and looking to build into a 6-12 partnership. But those are some things that I would describe as goals as we move forward.
Can you go on your the slide before this? Thank you. On the bullet items on the bottom with number of teacher, admin, parent referrals, what is that?
So those were specifically from within our school system. There was a direct contact to one of us, whether it be to a teacher or to an administrator, from a parent saying, can you please, do you have resources that you can connect us with?
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the partnership with Rosecrans? I'm really grateful for the continued partnership with that. I really do believe it's a great opportunity for us to help our students and families in some tough areas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, ask it.
So I guess the only question I have.
You may have one more. You're being recalled.
Remember, you're still on your own. We moved away from this. This is science. So my question really is kind of taking some of the data to try and interpret what we've got in our middle school, because we don't do this in our middle school, right? So if you were to take a look at the data, is any of it concerning to you that they are leaning toward or trending toward the younger ages of our students, or are they spread out across the age bracket?
So that is a question that's asked, and I didn't highlight much of that, but every student that's connected with the program is asked that question. When did you first begin, or when were you exposed to whatever substance it is? And rarely is it ever first exposure in high school. But again, there's a small sample size with that. Again, we're talking about 31 of our 1,600 plus students. Their own data would argue that most students who are going to struggle with that decision don't first struggle when they are a 14-year-old freshman. It typically happens sometime before that. So again, whether it's through our health curriculum or whether it's through a partnership and different supports with that, we do think there's an opportunity for us to potentially grow, but we definitely want to get a better understanding of what does our data tell us. So we're working with them on a survey that can hopefully be utilized with not just our students who are identified. We surveyed our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors last year. There were some issues with that. That was in that first quarter, and the results were not what we had hoped for due to the administration of the survey. And this next year, I think we'll have a much better turnaround and gather some insights that can help frame that same question.
Any other questions? Should we recall? I'm sorry for the call. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Deb.
Okay, the next item is Susan and Restraint, our annual update on that.
Yep. Thank you. So, Act 125 is the piece of legislation that governs procedures and processes around what's called seclusion and restraint. And annually, the district designated to speak does need to report out to the Board of Education regarding the number of seclusion and restraint events, as well as how many students were involved in those events. And then in addition to that, how many of those students were students with IEPs that were involved. So the seclusion refers to an involuntary confinement of a student apart from other students. So it's a room or a space in which they are not able to physically leave
they're physically prevented from leaving. It's not the same thing as, for example, a timeout or something of that nature, or having a conversation with the teacher behind a closed door. It would actually be an individual standing between the student and the door, disallowing them to elope from that area. Restraint refers to a restriction that immobilizes or reduces the ability of a student to move freely, his or her torso, arms, legs, or head. So those are the definitions of that. We have engaged in a very robust process for training our staff around safe practices related to seclusion and restraint. We use what's called crisis prevention intervention. The law requires us to have one personnel that is trained in each of our 8 buildings. We have approximately 200 of our staff trained. So all of our special education case managers and therapists, school psychologists, social workers, many of the building principals, all of our special ed instructional assistants are required. We do require that they update that training every 3 years to make sure that they have the most recent and appropriate information. And the crisis prevention intervention training goes beyond just safe practices around seclusion and restraint. It begins by focusing on how we de-escalate situations as we enter an exchange with a child or a young person who is currently dysregulated. So how do we engage in joint regulations so that we're the common sword for that student to bring them down? And then if we find ourselves in a position where the student is in imminent danger of harming themselves or somebody else, that's when we would either seclude the student to protect them or put them in a protective hold. We have 3 trainers in our district, and one of our trainers just recently did a training for families and other local families so they could come and participate in the de-escalation tactics, but also to understand and view what does seclusion look like, what does restraint look like. She will be offering that again next year. So if any of you are interested, I would encourage you to participate. These are the incidents of seclusion and or restraint that have occurred in our district. You can see that there's a chronological history there. If you consider the fact that we have approximately 5,000 students in our district, we had 23 seclusion and or restraint events this year. Again, those are only situations that occur when there's imminent risk of danger either to that child or to somebody else, and we need to stop that imminent risk from occurring. We had a total of 7 students who were secluded and restrained in those events. Of those students, 6 of them were kids with IEPs. Any questions? That's some heavy stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
We also have an update this evening on our ongoing conversation related to the middle school schedule and efforts to look at some possible adjustments. So, we'll go in and Alicia here, with Elaine, with the me, and hello again. So tonight's purpose and our update is really just to get feedback on 2 main points. A concept that guarantees exploratory curriculum, some suggestions around revising encore classes to be more mindful of the needs in STEM, financial literacy, and career exploration, as well as having a direct alignment to high school offerings that are directly in line with the district's education for employment plan, which the high school I presented on a little bit earlier. And lastly, the inclusion of health and wellness curriculum, including social-emotional competencies. As you've been told in the past, about 20% of our middle school students currently take Health 8. And what we're hearing now from the high school is that 8th grade is really, too late, and that's too few students engaging in that curriculum. So we're getting feedback, or we're asking for feedback on those 3 items tonight, and we're just going to take turns on certain points. We're going to begin with a review of the timeline so we can all remember when this began and what has happened along the way.
All right, so back in February, we began a more concerted effort to examine the middle school schedule, and that could be backed up even further to our vision of the graduate work of the district. that included parents and teachers as well. We began reviewing the work from the previous MLPR, the Middle Level Program Review. That was in September of 2012. Our current state and then best practices, and a significant portion of our work was aligned to the vision of the graduate and what our current middle school schedule offered and how we could better align with our vision. In March, we sent out parent and teacher surveys based on gaps we perceived in helping students meet our vision of the graduate and our current offerings. In April, we sent out surveys. I believe we received about 80 responses from other districts and what they offered for science and encore elective courses in their models. In May, we had 3 concepts that we were excited to take to the staff and get feedback and their perspective on the possible models. And then in end of May, we had staff meetings at Lake Tenune and Baleen with all the teachers present. They had time to digest the schedule. Some of them took the drafted schedules with them. Teams circled around them and shared pros and cons that they saw with the concepts we had developed. And then we spent a lot of time refining those concepts based on all of that feedback we had gathered. Played out the FTE versus the concept that we were hoping for to remain budget neutral.
So FTE is full-time equivalency, so staff is specific.
Yeah, so remain budget neutral and not have to hire additional staffing. Just required us to work through some of the different suggestions and concepts. And then, thanks to Linda at Lake Tenune and her team, they were able to attempt a stress test, I'll call it, with Infinite Campus to see what that might look like compared to what we normally put our schedule in and see what percentage of kids initially received what were the requests based on the model we had proposed. And then we sent out a survey to our teachers, aware it is summer, but we were excited about the number of responses we received. Gave our contact information so that people could call, email, text us, and then had a informal meeting on Thursday where teachers could come and again share concerns, feedback, ask questions. Excited to get some input from all.
So as Rachel stated, although this direct process began in February, if you recall last summer, we had a fairly large group of about 45 educators from across our district, K-12. We had post-secondary representatives from WCTC and CAP. We had community members, administrators come together and develop the vision of the graduate, which you've seen many times throughout the year. And what we did at that time was we conducted a survey both for staff, parents, recent graduates, and employers, and asked what are the things our students need to be college, career, and community ready. And based on that feedback and that data, we then conducted research around best practice in this area, and that's where this document comes from. And when Rachel was talking about us conducting a gap analysis about where our current state is in the middle school versus what our vision is, what we identified were areas in STEM, financial literacy, career focus, and health and wellness as being gaps. So at that time, we then sent out a survey to our own parents and our educators this past spring, specifically about these areas. Would you mind just hitting enter? And I did present this at a board meeting earlier this spring, but one of the questions on that survey was to please share suggestions for middle school. On the left here were the themes from the teachers. Time equity in all curricular areas, the intervention impact that students were missing on core classes due to intervention, and then a desire to have a guaranteed elective or exploratory options. Parents, if you recall, the themes were they either had no opinion or thought students were well prepared. There were some with concerns about intervention and the impact. The world language band students, parents would like more elective options for their students, and then they said that some of our elective classes needed to be updated.
And so what you see in green are the areas that we felt through our process that we had a very good chance of improving our current state. World language and band, we took a look at what we could do to increase elective options for them. And one of the models that we came up with required us to add an additional period to the day, but then it condensed the core areas down to about 45-minute classes. And we just weren't sure if reducing the amount of time that much in literacy and math and all other areas really outweighed the positive options for world language band students to have an elective option. And the second thing we ran into when we ran it through a scenario with our full-time equivalency, our staffing, is we learned that we didn't really have enough elective teachers to support one more class for students without increasing our budget. And so we halted that process, but we continued forward with the items you see here in green. And this was already presented to you, but one of the other questions we asked on that same survey in spring was, which of the following do you believe should be part of a guaranteed curriculum for all middle school students? And then the word guaranteed was defined as 100% of students should have access to this curriculum, such as SciEd, art, and English class, just as examples. You'll see how parents replied to STEM, financial literacy, health, wellness, and career exploration, and the percentage of educators. And so the percent you see is the percent who agreed that those areas should be guaranteed curriculum for students. And based on the research that we conducted in our current state and also what we felt like our stakeholders were asking for, we set some project goals that Rachel will talk about.
So as Christy mentioned, our main driver was really our vision of a graduate in our district and what we hoped our graduates would leave Muskegon Norway with, which also aligns for the E4E work shared by the high school team. Also ensuring guaranteed curriculum was also a priority that we played around with many different scenarios to try and see where we could guarantee these areas that were a priority to parents and teachers. Providing students an opportunity to explore, and our model ensures that students explore versus selecting into a track early and running out of options or not really exploring. Linda will share more about that. Of course, responsive to students' needs is what's best for our students. And then being fiscally responsible, and we chose to move forward prioritizing to be budget neutral.
So I'm going to quote Todd Irvin on the first one. What he said previously fits so beautifully with this, that students need time to see, does this fit my strengths, and get to know myself better. That's pretty much the definition of middle school students, that if you've ever raised one, you know that's the time that they're trying on their worldview, and they're just really trying to figure out themselves, which makes it a really fascinating time. So the exploratory part is extremely important, that they do have a chance to try on different kind of electives and learn about themselves in the process. The second point about the Encore, again, going back to those same sort of items that we were looking at that were important to parents, educators also as well. And again, I think you're seeing probably a lot of connections with that Education for Employment plan. One thing when we looked at our Encore offerings and then looked at those of other districts, while we won the numbers game as far as how many we had, we really felt like our students weren't being served quite as well as districts that had those guaranteed electives. And the sorts of things they put into them seemed much more relevant, and I think we can do better for our kids here as well. And then finally, the health and wellness curriculum. And another important part, while it's not bold, it is really that social emotional piece. And we know that that is something employers want. They want someone that can get along, appreciate diversity, problem solve. And this is something that now would be formally in our program for our kids. I think that's a real plus for them as well. So what about the opportunities then? Here's just a quick graph with a concept that we did share with staff in terms of what what are the opportunities for kids at every level, and you see they are diverse. Some of our early conversations were about what does this look like, what are the things we want into it, and really, again, we're seeing a lot of mirroring the education for employability is what we're part of our early conversation, so it's good to see some connections coming together here tonight with their work. All right. And then finally, how did we meet our goals? Rachel just talked about these. We feel like our thinking on this matches quite well with the vision of the graduate, which has been so helpful to have that roadmap for us. The reason we put the second one more in the medium category was because the financial literacy would not be guaranteed. It would be something kids would take in an exploratory sampler in 7th grade instead of a guarantee. Because once you get to 7th grade, you'll remember that if you take a world language and a band, that does fill up your whole schedule. So we couldn't guarantee that for them. But I think in a very broad way, it's better for our kids, better exposure, gives them time to get to know themselves and their strengths and discover some strengths that they didn't even know they had. So the rest of them, again, very high in terms of meeting the students' needs and still staying fiscally responsible and trying to keep it budget neutral, knowing that we probably can't offer all 26 electives every period. And so our next steps then are really to look at those encore classes and how can we provide a better opportunity and exploration for our students. And you'll remember that would go through a CPC or curriculum planning committee process before it comes to you because it gets vetted through a team at the district level of teachers and administrators. We're still also kind of looking about, so how does this all fit in a day? And we're getting feedback that we're still analyzing and would have more concrete information on that. Of course, we'll circle around and get parent input again on this. And then finally, we would bring our thoughts to the board after we continue to vet this concept. And at this point, I guess we're ready for questions.
I like how you put this matrix, so you move back to the grade. So looking at it, is it safe to say the world language, that's the only one that's not a half day, or that's not a half period?
Not in 5th and 6th grade, it is offered in 7th and 8th, so it would be the Spanish 1 and the Spanish 2.
Period though, or it's a full day, right? So to look at 7th and 8th grade, the world language is the only one that's not, that you can't do every other day, right?
Right, every day for a year.
Right, so I guess...
Just for clarification, are you talking 5th or 6th right now?
7th and 8th.
7th and 8th, okay, yeah.
Thank you. And so I guess going forward, I would just like to know, or at least have you look at making that or every other day as an option, because that would plug a gap that's been kind of a concern for years since we went every other day band player. So I don't need to know now if it's possible, I don't know if the budget or the staffing is on that.
We have to run through the staffing. That would be the first thing that pops in my mind for checking it out. I did run that concept past a past state office holder for the world language organization for our state. He was not a fan. He believed that true world language, if you're really going to learn it, needs to be immersion. That's one personal opinion in his research, but certainly I understand what you're trying to accomplish.
That would accomplish your statement too, that everyone has a chance to explore whatever they want, right? And then maybe it's as easy as saying, okay, if you want to do that, then you only get 1 credit for in high school, or a half credit for each year that you do it. I don't know, but at least, thank you for looking into that, because I think that's a major part of finding a gap if it's possible. I don't know if it is.
Thank you.
So a comment and then a question. The comment first is, one of mine, and I relayed this to Bailey, because that's where I had experiences from and where I heard different comments from, but one of my criticisms has been what's the point of having all these wonderful options if there's no time in the day for the kid to take it? So I would like to see that addressed. And then I guess my question is, while it's less than ideal, we don't want to exclude kids from taking an elective, but if a kid needs math intervention, maybe they can't take an elective. That's kind of how life goes.
That is our process. Now, I will tell you that I do have a place in my heart for those kids. When they get out of intervention, I work really hard to make sure they get their top choices. But right now, that's, we're working with not an infinite amount of time. Time is finite for us with kids, and that is a bad time, yeah.
One quick comment on, just wanted to comment on intervention. We've been having conversations about looking at various interventions and different interventions, but through our PDSA cycle, right now we're in the Study Act phase for RTI, and so when we get back into the plan stage, we do plan on looking at the effectiveness and do we have the right interventions, could there be something different? And at that time, we may not need as long of a period to service those students. So in one of the models that we've been playing with, we have about a 27-minute resource period. And within that, we're hoping that down the road, we would be able to fulfill student needs in that resource period so that they wouldn't have to be pulled from an elective. So it's on the back burner, but only so that our Planning Study Act processes can fully, take shape in the other areas.
So when we do interventions, how big a group is it? I assume it's not one-on-one.
6 is maximum.
So between 1 to 6, what's average?
I was going to say 3. Part of it is in the reading intervention, it does need to be level by their reading level. And so sometimes that'll get kids in certain groups, and that's why we've got some smaller groups there. And then sometimes it's based on need too. If we only need 3 kids to go into math, that's what we prefer.
I agree with Dean as far as, if a student needs intervention in one of the core subject matters, that's our core, that speaks to our core mission. And they just may not be able to take or have the time to do the other issues. And I'm just kind of rolling my head right now of, these are some hybrid or something different. And I know one of the things we're looking at is budget control, and we are, we're very conscious of cost, but I'm almost wondering, is there a way of doing something with not all students, but maybe some students that have options of staying after, okay, and do a contract with the parent, okay, if they're going to go into intervention, they have to, here's what's expected of you, then you can do it after school. Obviously, there's a cost to that, it's the cost more for the educator being there, but there's going to, they can do it after school, and they have to participate, at a high level or 100%. I don't know, has anything like that been looked at?
Gosh, I wouldn't speak.
Or something,
When we had 2 guest teachers in the middle school building, we did have one start early, and kids were coming in for intervention there, and the other one start later, but still be able to be in classrooms, right?
Sure.
But still, could stay maybe till 4 instead. For exactly that reason, I like thinking on it. The challenge we had is, who are those 3 students that get to be in that class? And if they are 3 reading students, do they all happen to have the same reading level? So there's some
Well, there's degrees of intervention. There's students that are way behind. There's some that are they just need that little bit. And my thought is almost just that borderline student that they will pull them out relatively soon. It might be a quick check-in or check-out type thing. And that might dictate who's eligible.
Yeah, good point. I think depending on the composition of the group, it'd be more manageable, depending on how we structure that.
The other question I have, you briefly touched on it. I don't want to say covertly, but it's just regarding the health class. And some of the subject matter that you want to be, I guess, I don't know, I personally would like to see more information about what you're talking about. I want to be careful. We're a district with a moral compass, but I get nervous whenever we try replacing homes. So, at the cost of other subject matter. So I guess I want more in-depth information as far as what you plan on tackling in that.
Are you looking for that tonight, or? We can give you high level tonight if you want.
Well, if you have something, have at it, may get some corrections you may not like, some really like that, I don't know, that's what it is.
So, of course, none of this is finalized. We're getting teams together to look at curriculum and go through the CPC process. But the concepts would include things like, at the 5th grade level, they already partake in DARE, and it happens during their core class time. So rather than pulling them out of English for their DARE lessons, we're thinking of carving out time where DARE becomes part of a different class. Internet safety is something they also learn, and they're pulled out of class for during their library sessions. So again, we see a natural pairing there of like Safe Child, so DARE, internet safety. Social emotional learning lessons, which might include things like anti-bullying, working as a team, leadership, how to solve problems, and how to cope with stress, are some examples of what social and emotional learning would be.
When you're at your last slide, when you talked about Encore class revisions, are you anticipating or thinking that there would possibly be curriculum revisions to Encore classes and just questions around what Encore classes should be offered at all? Okay, so everything's on the table potentially. Okay.
Yeah. There likely could be classes that get combined because 5 years ago with the new schedule, there was a lot of specialty classes designed. So let's just say robotics as an example is strictly robotics, when it really could be more about engineering, and robotics is maybe a unit. So it's just something off the top of my head as an example. So we may look to collapse some of them together with more high leverage activities that relate to careers and our education for employment plan. Or it could be an entirely new class, like the computer science component of it. We don't really have much for computer science in the way of computer science at the middle school, but there's a lot of free curriculum out there in the area of coding, and we're doing some work with Apple, like the technology company, and they have free curriculum. You have to buy their hardware. But there's also code.org, which we have some affiliation with through an employee's relative, and that curriculum is also free, and they have middle level workshops. So we definitely want to make sure that if we're revising content, that we're revising because it's outdated curriculum, it needs to be aligned with the vision of the graduate, or it's filling some sort of Pinterest workforce need. And if it's new curriculum, a brand new class, for the same reasons, we want to make sure it's aligned to the work.
I do have a couple more, but one go. One of the things we were talking about also was DARE. There's no evidence DARE works. I think it's trying to solve a problem that we have, but it's not the right tool. And maybe I'm wrong, but I've never been presented with anything besides it's kind of like feel-good stuff for middle school kids. I'd almost rather we research something that does have some proven successes or some data behind it. I don't want to forego that area, but there itself the numbers just don't seem to play out. Unless I'm wrong, tell me.
There was an article last week in the Washington Post speaking directly to that issue.
Okay, I missed it. What is
Because
it?
the Attorney General wants to give some of the budget for the Department of Justice to resurrect some DARE programs, even though there's no research that they've done any good whatsoever. So.
I was talking to one of our resource officers and found they thought it had more to do with was that we're doing this in fifth grade? Sixth grade? Fifth grade. And that's, at that age, kids are still pretty much, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. And it's a couple years after that we really need to hit them. So that may be part of the reason why DARE is not working, in which case, yeah, have a program that'll address somebody more right in the higher tween age might And these are students from the district.
I also remember Ted saying he was going to start that process of really looking.
But it's fun bringing it up.
Right.
There's some curriculum affiliated with a nonprofit called Second Step that I'm familiar with. They do have, paired with social emotional lessons, they have decision-making and in the area of alcohol and drugs. And that's something that we can look at and see if there's any data around.
One of the other things you mentioned, and I thought all along, obviously, middle school kids are getting into the high school, and we want everything to align. Obviously, I don't need this tonight, but I think something that'd be helpful in the future would be to see how all this is going to flow in, like get a better grasp of where we're going, where you want to go with this. Give any final blessings on anything. I just want to make sure that we have that clear path, and maybe you guys have it in your head, I don't.
I like that you brought that up. Our district is working with WCTC right now, and in partnership with 12 other school districts in the area, and CISA 1, and what you're talking about is called Pathways, and creating that direct alignment between middle, high school, and college, so that students understand what their path is, if they're interested in a certain area. So that is definitely work that's happening for all of the pathways that exist. There are a lot. This year, our group is working on the health or medical pathway and the computer science pathway. So just to kind of put it into a scope, that it's a large project that'll take many years, but in terms of if we would be looking at new courses and how our courses align, we can certainly put together some visual for you for that.
That would be helpful. The one fear I have on the way you're describing it is I don't want a middle school 5th grader, 6th, 7th, 8th grader, for that matter, high school freshman, think that they have to decide what they want to do with their 6th grade or 8th grade for that matter.
Email.
There's lyrics from one of my favorite songs out there that said that, some of the most interesting 40-year-olds I know still don't know what they want to do. So I think there's a lot of merit to that. I agree with planning and having goals and shooting towards it, but I don't want some adult thinking, oh my God, I'm doing this all I'm locked into this, and I really don't want to become orthopedic surgeon or something like that. So.
We'll take that class off the list.
Any other questions? Where are we going with this next?
We'll come back on August 14th, and there'll be some additional input and maybe some more concepts. And we'll move it further.
When do you think we're looking to, so what would be, right now, just brainstorming your timeframe for implementation of this? 2018?
19.
Okay, so during the next, not this kind of school year, but the one after, so we're not rushing, we've got time, right?
It will also depend on the CPC process, and so, those things might delay it, but we want to do it right.
Yes, that's in that
For me, for this, have to bring this up, I guess, thinking of it as Chris is talking here about. So you obviously brought this on the staff. It's evident from social media and texts that are going around that there is at least one teacher that's steadfast against what you're proposing. What's their points and where are they coming from?
So we've done this a couple times as that we had a staff meeting, so everybody was giving input, and that was really the springboard for our next step as far as the concept that we brought forward to staff now in a survey, an online survey, plus the opportunity for the face-to-face. In that survey, as you can imagine, with something as complex as this, it's not unanimous, and so we did have 78% of the staff either I can support this or I strongly support
The
this.
staff or the staff that responded?
Staff that responded, thanks for the
Which percent was
clarification.
that? Was that a lot of percent that responded, or are we talking like?
I think we're about to 40s, yeah.
Almost
in the
50%.
mid-40s.
Okay.
And from that, we also, the question was, I strongly support, I can support, I have concerns. And really the results are even stronger than 78%, because the can I have concerns the next question then is, what's your input on that? And sometimes the concerns were, well, what's that curriculum going to be for the social emotional learning that Christy was talking about? We have a plan for that, and actually one of the teachers has it at home this summer, but not everybody has it. So it was a concept, so it wasn't fully fleshed out. Some of the concerns were about, I would say it's philosophical, choice versus exploratory. Again, if you look at, for example, the Association for Middle Level Education, if you look at their work that is really considered the centerpiece of middle level education, which is this We Believe. If you do a search for the word exploratory, it's all over the place. If you do the search for choice, you're going to find the word choice as in, within this class, students have choice in the kind of work they do or how they show their learning. But really the exploratory, just to connect what you just said, kids start tracking themselves way too young of, I don't like tech ed. I'm not going to be an engineer. It's more like I'm not doing it rather than I am. And, just as someone who's raised middle schoolers, that was my daughter who is now an engineer. So there's so much going on in those middle school years that philosophically and research-based by people who have studied middle school kids for a long time, exploratory gives them that broad view to learn about themselves, learn about their strengths that they never even knew they had.
I'll add too, we had about 12 teachers, would you say, at the meeting on Thursday, and the majority of them were supportive and excited, and so...
And I get that, I'm just trying to, be big tent, listen to all voices, so, what were the people that were, or the teachers that were, obviously one was really adamant against it.
Yeah, so half of what Linda said was removing the world language at 5th grade that all students would take. And then a possible intro to Spanish or French or German class in 6th grade, which is not a prerequisite to a Spanish one or French one. So our proposal there eliminated those two options to ensure students explore other things in 5th and 6th, knowing so many of our kids will end up taking world language and something anyway. So I think that my perception was, a threat to the world language program, which I think we started off prioritizing that because we offer Spanish 1 and 2, French 1 and 2. That makes it makes our district stand out.
Sure.
And holds a priority for world language, but you want to share about it?
I would also just say that I wondered that same question, would that affect? But then I remembered 5 years ago, we did not have those courses, but we did have the Spanish 1 class in 7th grade, which again, very unusual for a district to have that. Yeah, there you go, okay. So at that time, I looked at the size of the class, the number of kids that took it, and really it didn't seem to affect. It's a small sample size, so it only was in effect for a year or two before we started the intro classes. But it didn't really impact the level of interest in it. Kids either seemed to be interested in taking it or not.
And we still offer it for those Spanish 1 and 2 and 7 and 8th grade, you get some credit for that.
Yep, yeah, and that's a big draw for them.
Yeah.
And the classes were created for when intervention came, correct?
Right, we needed the classroom teachers to be the interventionists in that particular model, and so it did put us in the position where we needed to create more electives, and the world language teachers had the availability in their time, and that was really the genesis for that.
Thanks. As people have questions, as we go down this path, is there a point person they want to, who should we contact to shuttle our questions that we get through?
Rachel and me, probably,
Okay.
because we're most familiar with it and how schedules work together or don't work together. Yeah, we welcome that, thank you.
Great, thank you.
And Rachel. On the online survey that they sent staff, actually had their home contact numbers for people who were not able to make meetings, so.
I'm thinking more parents and everything. They may or may not reach out to us.
So I'll put their home contact information in the public
Thank you.
a cycle, and actually Christy mentioned it a bit when she was talking about interventions. And this is actually a document and a process that we created over this last year in response to our feedback report from the Wisconsin Board application. And so the reason we created this was to have a clear systematic process of continuous improvement. We wanted to make sure that we were organized and focused in our short and long-term planning and to have capacity to complete the important work of the district. And so if you click on that, you will see the very robust list of what this looks like in total. But we've identified 11 keyword processes: operations and systems management, district curriculum, response to intervention, student assessment, human resource management, multi-level systems of support, employee engagement, community engagement, strategic planning, technology, and financial management. Those are what we have identified as, those are key. If we're doing all of those at a high level, we're going to be able to move our system forward. That's a lot, right? But then there are these support processes that really kind of, take district curriculum and say, okay, well, when are we going to plan for a particular curricular area? And all of those are itemized out in this document. So that's the supporting process. You'll see the list of, 40-some of those. And what we've done is we've identified when each of these will be going through a plan phase, which is really identifying for the first time those key elements. And so, for example, this middle school conversation, this is really like a plan phase for them, because they are re-looking at, they looked at the research, they are looking for the gaps, and they're looking at how are they going to redefine that potentially. And then there's an implementation or a do phase, and then there are a number of years that you're in the study act, and that's where the middle school was for many years, where it would be, we're studying this, and this is what we found out over the last year, so we're going to act on some of the things that we've identified as issues. So essentially, starting next year, we have these identified out for the next, through 2025, I believe, 2024, 25 school year, so that we have capacity built in within our system, so we're not doing everything. Or if somebody brings up something mid-year, says, you know what, we really need to do X, Y, Z, we can say, you know what, that aligns to this particular support process under this keyword process, and that's just, scheduled to go into a plan phase in 18-19. So it just helps us stay focused, on track, and really does help us with capacity. Now, we know we also have TIAG, and there's things that come up that would require us to put something before something else, or, bring it forward at quicker speed, or maybe even delay something. And, we would just have to understand that that's going to happen and make adjustments to the plan. But this is actually, we had this since 2012 for curriculum. We had a curriculum review process. It was for 7 years. It was the 2020 plan. And essentially now it's just more robust. You'll see all the curricular areas are in here still. Social studies and literacy and writing and science. And we've just embedded it now in all, with all the other keyword processes. So, the other two documents that are, offered here for your review and enjoyment, what each of those phases includes. So, Christy kind of shared the plan phase, some of the elements that the middle school review process was going through, and you'll see that those align very much with the plan phase, analyzing the gap between current and desired state, those types of things. And we will be monitoring each one of those, each area through those phases. And so it just keeps us accountable, making sure that we're not letting something just go. Like we made that change in science and, maybe we'll come back to it in 7 years. It really does help make sure that we come back to it every year to say, what are we studying? What are the outcomes? Are we going to make any sort of small change in the ACT phase or not? And then the other document is what is it called? It's called the PDSA New Staffing Innovations and Operations. This is a process process shortened, but very similar to CPC, where if there is a request for a new staff or a new innovation or a new operation that's not part of our work process right now, that we would go through a process to determine whether or not there is connection with our strategic plan and our core competencies and things like that in order to determine whether or not we actually will go forward with it. And budget is in there as well. And it aligns very much to our budget process. So you need to know about, interest in May, but, there's some flexibility obviously this year. September 15th, it would go to the cabinet and then go through the process if the cabinet believes that there is, that there is a connection with where we're headed with the strategic plan. And then November through January is when we bring it through the budget process, and then the board would see it through that process if we're going to be bringing forward new staff or new innovations or new operations. It has a budget impact. Does that make sense? So, we're just going to be deploying this next year. We'll come back to the board as we continue to, revise it and, make sure that it works as well as we think it should. But you have access, that link will, you'll have access to it. Anything? Any other questions? Okay. The next item is the draft 2017-18 IM goal plan. With the board approving the 2017-18 KPOs, we're continuing down the road to articulate our 2017-18 eye on the goal. So actually just had this today, the draft document. We always change the front cover just a little bit to make it different from previous years, but you'll see that, our 4 core competencies haven't changed, obviously. It's the back side where you'll see our 4 KPOs in each one of those 4 areas, and then we talked about those metrics. This is just a draft. We're still moving forward with our leadership team on August 7th to make sure that these are the goals or the metrics that we want to track. We track obviously tons of other things, but we think we want to keep on our eye on the goal, and we'll be bringing this back on August 14th. Any questions? Okay, and then our standing item of contributions to professionals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to other reports, President's report. Nothing much. Congratulations to the baseball team for making their sectional finals. Unfortunately, they lost. But they did have an upset against the number 1 seed on their way there, which is kind of an exciting way of ending their season. Reminder to everyone that we do have Wednesday owner meetings for the building project, so if you're interested in getting an update on where we are at, you can attend those, as well as, and if you could let us know ahead of time if you're interested in holding these. Thursday morning, we do site tours, so if you want to walk around any of them, get a tour, you need your hard hat, or you have one, and old pair of shoes. But those are available as well, so just want to remind everyone of that. Any other board member reports?
Yeah, I have, just briefly, this past weekend I was up in Green Bay attending the WSB Leadership Institute Conference. I sat on a couple of sessions. One was about master planning, and the big thing that I took away with it was it's a continuous process, which we seem to be doing now. So that we're not taken with any surprises, and we don't have to do any real in-depth architectural studies and having to come out with a surprise. Second, which was a really good one, was a journey to mental wellness put on by the Hortonville School District and what they've done to help increase students' mental well-being. So it was interesting they looked for partners in the community, such as with the Forest Grants, to get some of these issues resolved. And the third big one that I attended was employee engagement, in which a lot of what we already do is kind of covered. So it was kind of good knowing that we're following a lot of the right processes. A couple of good things in there too, so
Any other board member reports? Hearing none, there are no committee reports. Resolution action item. Item 11, 11A, District Association Fiber Optic Network.
Motion to approve the subdivision fiber optic network with MC&E for a total project cost of $974,000 funded through the capital lease.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Any questions from the last time? Last time we were using?
So where are we with eBay?
E-rate is interesting. We do not have an update from them yet. We have not inquired either, but usually that's not how it works. We have to wait until they provide some level of communication. To that end, there's been no request for further information, which I'm not saying is truly indicative of anything, but at least that's a good sign that we provided them with the necessary information to get started. So,
When will we have a decision?
they were supposed to provide information within the 90-day cycle, which would allow us by August, is that 90 days. And so we're waiting for August to come, and that would be ideally the window. As I mentioned last year, that was the first time that they had started this type of process, and they went well beyond that. So 90 days is what they've informed is the window of time that they should provide a response. Doesn't mean that they absolutely will. So at that point, we just have to wait.
Tony, remind me, was it, this plan, the cost, does this include the hookup to either Franklin or?
It does not.
Does not.
Thank you.
That's going to be an extra
Yep.
expense.
Round one, get our network in. Round two then would be to look at other entities. Franklin would be the closest. Well, it's not guaranteed, it's not agreed upon, but our closest is the Franklin district.
No, I mean, who will we be hooking up with for internet connection in the meantime?
We use that. Yeah. We have Nets coming into the district. Yeah, which is AT&T is the representative vendor that does that work, so. And actually Ryan's been working with them to add a new connection to our building, so just part of our new agreement with them.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none.
I make a motion to defer this till April, or till August 14th to hear from E-rate.
Is there a second? Dies for lack of a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Passes 6-1. Moving on to item 11B.
Motion to approve H&H Civil to complete design work for the football stadium in the amount of $36,500. Can I get a motion?
So
Second. Discussion.
So Jim Knight's here, if anybody has any follow-up questions, we discussed this last meeting in June.
So this is taking the funds that we get the youth program. Part of the contribution to us to get the engineering and design phase moving on this.
So isn't this what Paul Kirkman was talking about earlier? If we approve this, why can't they get the work done? They don't want to, they're not going to approve H&H move forward until the agreement's done?
Right, they want the agreement.
They want the agreement, so that's really more in their hands than ours as far as moving it forward.
And we didn't even know about the facility use contingency until, what, Thursday? Friday last week, so.
So what are we waiting till April 14th for?
August. Just for the facility use agreement.
The agreement between the two entities is they can use it.
Spend the money that they will have use for it.
So they were going to just, initially, we had this on the board agenda last week. They wanted to donate the money, but then on Friday they said, well, actually, we want to have an agreement related to facility use. that they have 100% Saturday use during X and Y time. And so we just said, well, we need to work through a legal document to, have a sunset likely. The board will probably want like after 10 years, that would, have to recommit or whatever. So that's what now because of that contingency from Friday, that's why they can move forward with it, but they just won't know for sure if the board's going to approve whatever is approved or not as far as facilities.
So in a perfect world, those would both came to us at the same time.
Correct, but we didn't know until Friday.
So truly, we probably have to amend this motion to say that we won't move forward with spending this money until
There's that agreement.
Well, not the agreement until we get the money from them, because they're holding back because of the agreement. If they want to change their mind and tomorrow hand us a check, we can go forward.
Oh, so we accepted their donation,
Yes.
but they didn't make a donation.
Correct.
Well, it's contingent on the facility.
Now it is.
Okay, so our amendment basically says this is contingent upon receiving the donation.
Yep. If you make that motion.
Okay, I'll make that motion to amend.
I'll second that.
Discussion on the amendment?
I just wanted to note that they have some big meetings coming up for fundraising efforts. They wanted to keep the momentum going, and that item came through with the facility use thing on Friday. So they had planned for a couple weeks to be here and to tell their constituents that this was all happening, and then that thing with the facility use came in. So I suggested let's just hammer the facility use out and then come back for those donations, and they thought that would really hurt the momentum. So I said, well, we're going to have to do it contingent upon receiving the facility use agreement.
This puts it back in their plate that if they decide they really want this momentum, they keep going, they can just hand over the check before we have that agreement and proceed forward. It's on their timeline, I guess, essentially by making this amendment.
And we do have renderings from H&H Civil, and we have renderings from Brave, the master, plan out there. So I asked Brave if they could combine those two, and hopefully that suffices for their marketing campaign in the meantime.
And there is the last sentence, we will sign off the approval after MNSD, MYF come to an agreement of facility use for the project. So I don't know if that's enough, or if you want to change the motion.
That's probably too much, because they're
We want
holding,
them to go forward.
Until they have it.
yeah, if they want to give us, right now, their idea, they're holding back the check until they have that. Right. We don't really care if we have that, starting to design and engineering, that's them. So if they, under Eric's motion that he's making to amendment, if they change their mind tomorrow, hand over the check.
But our thought process is they probably won't hand over that check until either they're confident that we have an agreement or we voted on the agreement.
Right. But it puts it in their hands.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Any questions on the motion as amended? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as amended, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 11C, academic standards.
Motion to approve academic standards for the 2017-2018 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second. Discussion.
So this is the third year that per Act 55, or the third, that we have to bring it forward to the board for approval annually. So Chris is here to answer any questions, otherwise it's as it's been for the last fiscal year. For readiness standards, of course, that is just our mission.
And I just want to reiterate, Chris, but these are standards, not curriculum. There's a huge difference. And it makes up thinking Common Core is a certain type of curriculum, and it's, in our case, it's just a minimum standard that we follow. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to 11D, Qualtrics.
Motion to approve Qualtrics in the amount of $27,800 and $23,800 annual renewal.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Discussion.
So Jody's here to answer any questions. We brought this up in our June meeting as an opportunity for us to better build our efficiency with regard to data collection, evaluation, and dashboarding.
What month did he bring this up?
June.
Oh, there's, okay.
Yes.
Never mind.
Is it replacing something?
Well, over time, it will, but as a pilot for next year, we are keeping our current data processes in place, and, but over time, we expect that it will.
What's our current process?
Little here, little there.
Yes, manual processes with spreadsheets and other things. Really is quite a bit of spreadsheets with not very little data visualization for that.
So we're not paying for a software?
Solution right now, no.
No.
This is additional. And where would this come out of, what budget?
Tech budget. It's already established. If approved, it would be there.
So do we have an estimate about how many, I'm assuming this will save some man-hours, that's one of the reasons we're doing it.
Yeah.
Have an idea about how many?
I haven't done the math on it. It's probably more interesting well, here's what I know we'll do. When we can automate our processes, we'll be way more efficient about how quickly we can get access to the data and share that data. And right now, each department has their own dashboards. Teaching and learning dashboard as an example is, 30 pages, 40 pages. Yeah, it's quite a bit. It's an example of how inefficient we become when we're trying to look for all the data in that when, instead of having it all in one place, we have it spread out over multiple tabs for a very large document. So even when we look at it, a teaching and learning dashboard for one piece of information, it can save us 15 to 20 minutes just within that. I know it sounds like how that's even possible, but it's just that much data held within one system. And actually, we brought the data team together to evaluate what our needs were, and this is one of our greatest identified needs, is the dashboarding for departments. And this is where that software really is meant to shine.
And this will tie it all together so you can get a high-level one.
Correct.
So they can use it. I mean, I actually,
Well, I can relate to a job like that, they had 10 different systems, and they had to wait for this to be finished, to go to that one, to go to this one, to go to that one, at the end, it was still...
makes sense to cut that.
I've got to know here that you actually showed a demo at first, like, so you must have, okay.
So, for example, one of the things that we might save over time are surveys. We're not going to start with the survey module necessarily next year through our pilot, but we do survey and we spend money on having that data, supported for us. So that's an example. Also, the other types of, that's employee engagement and caring, all of that. We also have alumni tracking. That could be something that we could, engage in, and it could build efficiency there as well.
So these were the modular, so these are the modules that if we want, we purchased, but the one that we're piloting is specific for the teachers in the classrooms. Well, as far as the content,
We have some systems that actually take care of our assessment data and that kind of information about student performance. This one is probably more centered on the performance of our departments themselves, and that's going to be our starting point, and then it'll break down into the buildings eventually once we get mastery of the system.
then I got a note here that we were going to pilot and then just see where that brought us, what type of data and visuals we could, right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, really, we don't have, as much as I hate to say it, I spent a lot of time making graphs, and I know that sounds kind of like, oh, yeah, that shouldn't be that hard, right? But there's no, kind of that intuitive data representation that exists in our current manual process. It's really more of I think that's what Qualtrics can offer, and the other thing is automating our data. We can expand our dashboards to be more than what they are currently, hopefully not teaching and learning. I mean, let's say that. Yeah, exactly, yes. And to Kelly's point, the Insight tool, which is that data tool to survey our staff and to survey parents, survey students, we may or may not make that the primary, but either way, it's a data source. It's a way for us to manually enter data into the system if we need it. So it doubles as both.
I don't have anything else. My notes were all those that are just, those are already in the hopper, so we're good.
Any other questions?
So this is for only part of part of the program?
Actually,
It's pilot, but only for...
oh, sorry, all modules been in a pilot format, sure. I mean, what we're trying to do is see how it impacts what we believe will be every single department in the
So
district.
if we decide to go forward with a full implementation, the cost is not going to increase drastically.
Correct.
Since
Right.
well, inflation, whatever, other...
Yeah, and again, as we mentioned, teaching and learning is well represented within the current data systems we have. It's really the operations side that has not been, and this really appeals to that too. So we see that as a really strong benefit to be equally useful for all departments and not just curriculum, teaching, and learning technology as an example.
And how long is the pilot?
So we'll be looking at, well, depends how long we can get into the system, but we'll be looking to start as early as August for an implementation process, so.
So we'll be looking at this next year to see if we want to
Yep.
throughout the whole system.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to 11E, resolution calling for a special meeting of school district electorate.
Motion to approve resolution calling for a special meeting of school district electors.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Moving on to 11F, graduation date 2018.
Motion to approve Sunday, June 3rd, 2018 as the Muskego High School graduation day.
So moved.
Discussion?
So, as you know, we've had some parents talk to the board, and they're, as far as Jeff Peterson and Todd Irvine and a number of students discussed the concept and felt that given the move in 1 week earlier, that there would be enough disruption for a number of families that it would make sense for a 1 year only to move it back to a Sunday so that we don't have those conflicts.
And just to put an exclamation point on their case, they went and took state, so.
Yeah.
To demonstrate why they should be there.
What was the reason we moved it off Sunday? Because it was falling on Father's Day?
Yes.
First, yeah, I think specifically Father's Day, and then we thought about why having it on Sunday, it's conflicting with worship and everything else, so.
This will be in the afternoon? Yes.
I think Bob seconded that.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Moving on to item 11G, middle school guidebook.
Motion to approve middle school guidebook as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
So Christie brought forward some changes to the grading for learning portion of the middle school guidebook in June, and nothing has changed since then.
No changes since the last meeting?
So these are only the efficiency
Grading essentially.
grading, right, and then trying to make it.
The conversion? Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Moving on to 11H.
Motion to approve one additional open enrollment seat for grade 1.
So moved.
Somebody second.
Second.
And everybody at once. Discussion.
So each year in summer, we go back to what we have projected for enrollment to see whether or not there would be any seats available for open enrollment. And through that analysis, there was one that was right. And so we would like the board to consider us being able to fill that.
Questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. 11I, school resource officer contract for 2017-18.
Motion to approve agreement with the City of Muskego for the services of 3 school resource officers for the 2017-2018 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
So we brought the contract to the board for consideration in June, and we do have the updated cost for those positions included in the contract this time, so it's complete.
I just have one comment. Under item number 8, of course, is we using the SROs as the DARE instructors. In whatever review we do for a hopefully better program for drug awareness, drug resistance, I guess I should say, would it be possible that we could try and find something where we can still utilize the SROs? I think they do a wonderful job, just like I said, they're
It's an opportunity for them to build relationships with students early on, and it is a vehicle for that, for sure.
And I'm thinking part of that reason the language is in here, do they still, well, obviously you said they want to increase funding, but they
There's probably still some
still
federal
some funding
money
that
coming
helps
through.
pay the city's portion of those positions.
What, SRO money or?
I don't know, I'm assuming they used to have money that, it's all gone.
Yeah, the most recent was a year ago, and only 3 school districts within Wisconsin received money.
Okay.
Yeah, received, I should say cities, received money for SRO positions.
Okay.
But did they receive anything designated for DARE programs?
No, DARE is completely funded by the jurisdiction now.
Okay.
So should we change the contract to state DARE or other?
Well, it says such as.
It's for next year, we're not doing anything for next school year anyway, so I guess it's fine. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to 11J, policy,
Motion to approve second reading of policy number 6152, students' fees, fines, and charges, and policy number 8500, food service.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Discussion.
There were a few changes since the original one was brought forward to you, again by USDA, so we just included those just as an update to you, so you have all of the current changes as listed.
Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Moving on to discussion items, 12A, 2017-18 budget.
Standing item at this point.
Standing item? All
We're
right.
hoping for something soon.
Yeah, you know, we've all played in the same sandbox together, nice and easy. Any questions since it's on here? All right, moving on to item 12B, 2017-18 board goals.
So this is just a recommendation as to what the board goals could be for 17-18. Essentially, they're the same. If you recall, our KPOs did not change much at all from 16-17 to 17-18, and so these felt still very relevant for the board to focus on that multi-year facilities plan, the alternate revenue sources for our other facility projects, and then the whole communication and maintaining trust with the community related to the building projects. Certainly open to anything else the board would like to add. This is one reason why I do schedule board meetings, individual board meetings with board members in June and July so that we can address this or talk about this in that meeting. But Eric didn't have any questions about them. So, but certainly open to anything.
Yep, so I was the only one that came to your meeting?
Well, Lisa and I are in, we're in the process.
I specifically asked to go last, so.
You had coffee set up, what happened?
I had to cancel. Work got in the way.
The one recommendation I might make is on item 3 under Board of Governance. Right now it states, maintain the trust of the community through transparent communication of the progress on the building projects. I would actually just shorten that to maintain the trust of the community through transparent communication, period. Just keep, why just limit it to, it almost sounds like, well, we're not going to be transparent with anything else. else.
Your goal.
Let me know we met your goal on this one, when we open buildings, it doesn't really mean just.
Well, the only reason I to play devil's advocate, the more specific it is, then you can see if you met it and measure it. If you make it very, very broad, and it's about everything, I don't know how you know that you've met it.
So how do we know we made it the way it's worded?
Transparent communication of the progress of the building projects? Well, I think you'd have to look at what your communication is like at some midpoint then, right? Have you had board meetings where it's been an agenda item? Have you talked, right? I mean, you could think about times of the year where it makes sense, right? Have you addressed it at the annual meeting? Have you had, email contact that's been responded to?
I think we should probably leave it this way at least through the end of the next school year, until the school's open. And then I think we'll have to...
Then you'll have to, right, and maybe it's the next thing, maybe.
No, I don't disagree with that, I'm just trying to, it just sounded so odd, so how come we're just being transparent with this? No.
Well, hopefully the community will understand that, these evolve, they change.
The community reads any of these.
Well, they don't care to know the reason behind it.
Just, Jim was in the audience here, he's the only one who's going to hear anything about it, but.
So what about if we take out of and put including?
Well, because then, how do you measure that? I agree with her point of being more specific on it, but.
I know, but if you could leave it in there and take out of, put in including, so now we're not only being transparent and trustworthy in all communications, but specifically including, building project.
Why don't we just leave where it's at for now and consider where we're going to go with it in the future?
And if, through the meetings in the next few weeks, if we make some changes, IAP is working, we'll bring us forward. Clear?
All right. We have item 13, information follow-up. Any requests? Hearing none, all the other information is there for your perusal. Anyone need anything specific on those items B, C, and D? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 9:20. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was interesting.
That means you have to go home now.
I'm working on it.
What's up, George?
Too much. I read all the stuff on social media where you guys are transparent. You guys have 20 comments or so already? If you ever want to remove something like that, just key on it.
Okay.
And that's why I was, if you read the last comment on there, she shut it down. Yeah, she's really good people. Yeah, I have a report that just said something like that from somebody. And you have a roll one too, by the way. A roll one. Unconcerned.
Yes, yes.
Special.
Oh, it's amazing.
I don't know. Darlene, you want to switch it on this? Thank you so much, Christy.
The big one is...
You know,